Unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Are we talking about aliens?
Yeah. Yeah.
God, I hope they're real.
Yeah?
Why are people scared of aliens? I would have one on the podcast.
Yeah?
I don't know what the fuck we'd talk about. But I mean, if there's aliens out there, which I think there are, mathematically, I think it's improbable that we are alone out here. It's our ability as a species to think that we are so incredibly unique shocks me sometimes. If they're here visiting, I have to believe that they are more advanced than we are. I would assume, and obviously technologically, because they're covering a distance that we are not capable of covering. It seems like they are able to evade detection to a degree, and I would honestly guess that if we are seeing them, it's because they would want us to see them. But both of those things combined lead me to believe, like, if they wanted to fuck us up, they probably already could have and would have. So, I don't know. I think maybe like we're the comedy planet to them. Like you win a prize on some other planet and they're like, dude, you just won the best prize ever. We're going to send you to this other planet and you're not going to believe the shit that you're going to see. And so they come and they watch and they laugh and they go back and they tell tales of how dumb we are. But it doesn't work. Like, let's get on, like, this is awesome. Sit down and like have a chat with me or like Bluetooth to my mind or however that works. I'm not interested in the probing part, but like, and I don't know why that was such a narrative early on.
Yeah, kind of like a Freudian thing, that wasn't it? And I got taken up into the sky. They levitated me up, and the first thing that they did,
always right up the ass.
Yeah,
it's like
gapers.
They were forced to be a gape.
A gape. That's it. Yeah. I love the fact that it's like it's using a verb as a noun.
You have so few times in life to use that word that I think you should seize
as much as possible.
Let's
get it in a few more times before we finish up. So David Grusch, this guy, that's the dude.
Yep.
I've watched a good bit of stuff on him and his story. In your professional opinion,
yep,
how reliable do you think that this particular person's story, security access, clearance, all the rest of it is? So
I have very limited knowledge of him. I actually was exposed to his videos for the first time yesterday, in a very brief article. So he was in the Air Force. I think he was an intelligence officer. He held a SCI Clearance, and apparently he worked for a program that was peripheral or directly involved in identifying UAPs, is what I think they call it, aliens. Military officer, cool. Intelligence officer, great. SCI Clearance.
What's that?
It's top secret, special compartmentalized information. And it sounds like a big deal, but honestly, it's not. I mean, if you look at the, not too long ago, there was a National Guardsman, the intelligence leak. He had a SCI clearance and access to these databases because oftentimes, to hold certain jobs, you have to have certain clearances. It's the same clearance that I had when I was at the SEAL team on the East Coast, and it takes about 2 years to actually get the clearance. So oftentimes, you'll get the job and they'll just give you an interim clearance, meaning you have the clearance and access to the stuff as if the background investigation had been complete. But then it takes like 2 years to catch up to it. It's not an uncommon clearance. It's cool to say and write out like, oh, top SCI clearance. He must know everything. I was read into, with that clearance in the course of 17 years, I was read into a few programs that offline, I can give you a few Google search words and you would literally be able to find the information on the internet. People's thoughts that Jason Bourne is like out there. Maybe there is. In my experience, that's not the case. It's a combination and like this vice of like 60 people's careers jammed into one unique little coin. And that's just not the way that it works. So I don't doubt that he might have worked on a program that was basically around identifying unidentified shit in the air. Like, that's probably a good idea. Like, hey, we're kind of seeing these things that we don't know what they are. Let's put together some people to do that. From my understanding, that was nested inside of the Air Force. What he was referencing in the video, and what he seems to be referencing when he kind of made like the tour of the media tour is, well, there's this other program and it's their job to actually collect things. And what I'm hearing is from these people, these senior officers, they are telling me about things that they saw. And for me personally, now we're talking like second and third hand information. It's like, listen, he's like, well, we weren't read into this program and we weren't allowed access to that one. And that's totally common.
That's the C.
Yeah, the compartmentalization is totally common.
The C in his status, yeah.
I was not read into programs that other people at the commands that I was read into, because there's two things you have to have. You have to have this appropriate security clearance, but then also the need to know. Just because you have a TSSCI doesn't mean you're like walking into a skiff, which is like a room about this size where they keep all this dumb secret shit, or access to programs. You don't just get to go like, oh, hey, yeah, I'll be in the skiff for the next 3 hours, and you're just thumbing through stuff. That's
like a library.
Yeah, it's not the way that it works. So if this guy's job, which I don't doubt that he held that job, and I don't even necessarily doubt that other people would be coming up to him and saying to him, hey, this is what I saw and this is what I did. But it's not uncommon that they are going to separate programs that might have something to do with each other. But the best way to keep a secret is to keep it compartmentalized and separate. Like, I'm sure that even when it went back to creating the Manhattan Project, I bet you there were people who were working on that project that years later were like, oh shit, I actually designed
that. Was me.
Well, I designed.
That was my housing. That was my fucking wheel.
I designed
for the
that
plane.
wire. They had no idea. Why? Because it was compartmentalized. Why? Because we were trying to keep it a secret. So I personally don't think that we're alone. I hope that we're not alone. Like, I would legitimately like, what's up, dude? Let's go have a beer. Alien, do you drink beer? Like, what's going on here? I don't think there's as much to be scared of as people may think, but these people coming forward like, I have all this secret information, and then I'm not going to actually give you a shred of it, to me, puts their legitimacy in question.
Anybody that doesn't have first-hand knowledge of something. But there's some other interesting stuff that in order to be able to communicate this information, he had to get, I think it's Department of Defense or Security, Homeland Security clearance to be able to say these things. And he was allowed.
That's not much of a whistleblower then.
No. So he was allowed to say these things.
Yeah.
They said, so they have determined that what he was going to say is not classified information.
Yeah.
Because he had to get the clearance in order to be able to get this out. At least this is what was reported on Fox News.
So then what the hell is actually going on? Joe's theory is that they're trying to steal more money from us.
Who?
The government. They're trying to distract us with aliens while they pass some other shit that takes more money from us.
Oh, okay.
He thinks it's a false flag.
Look over there. The aliens are over there. The debt ceiling. Nobody needs to see this.
He's landing more on, I think this is actually an intelligence operation trying to point our attention.
False flag.
Yeah,
actual
in
false
another
flag.
direction.
But a psychological false flag.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Who was that president that said, if only we were attacked by an alien force, how quickly would humanity's differences be forgotten? So it was maybe Reagan or somebody like that. Anyway, the point being that at the moment, because largely life is very comfortable and there is no existential threat apart from the ones that people make up and population collapse, apart from the ones that people are concerned about that are in the news, the only enemies that people have are the ones inside, right? The ones internal to their nation. I actually think that if you were to say there is an alien civilization that's out there, we're not sure if it's hostile or if it's benign, you would actually end up with quite a bit of cohesion. Because for the first time ever, humans' tribal biases are able to be deployed against something other than humans.
Well, it's a threat for the entire population, just not one segment of the population.
Correct. People are brought together much more over shared hatreds than shared loves. At the moment, there is more hatred than there is love. But if the hatred could be directed at something in the sky or somebody out there, you could white pill this and say, "Oh, there's actually a potential good that comes out of this." But yeah, I don't know, man. There's a lot of different people that are part of this story. Like this lady that's involved that was helped to feed David this information is this lady that's been a part of sort of a UFO truther conspiracy thing for many years.
Well, let's say that. Let's play this out as if everything he's saying is true. So he was not part of the program specifically, but he's hearing that there is a program that exists somewhere nested inside of the DOD that they go out and they retrieve all of these things. For one, that would be an enormous operation. First off, you'd have to staff it and man it. So we're talking you'd have to have aircraft specifically dedicated for that. So you'd have people up front flying the aircraft. You'd have people in the back of the aircraft. And the people in the back of the aircraft are going to be probably junior personnel. And my point in all this is like the more people that see this, the more people that like try to keep a secret among 5 people and then add a 0 to that and then add a 0 to that. How is this
vector of leakage?
That's what I'm saying. Like you're trying to tell me that somewhere there it's nested inside of the DOD and they have a dedicated wing that's doing this and they're flying all over the place and nobody can give me one concrete shred of evidence.
Well, that's you said earlier on about people need to be able to sort of hold two thoughts in their mind at once. This is a relatively difficult one for some people some of the time to do, which is the government and the New World Order is unbelievably sophisticated and able to coordinate itself so that global health passports and microchips in our vaccines and aliens are able to be kept from us. And also, the government is so useless that I wouldn't trust them with anything, and they are completely incompetent and all of the rest of it. It's like, yo, which one is it?
Yeah.
Which one is it? Is it that they're able to coordinate a 5,000-person operation to be able to go and retrieve the most valuable artifact of non-human origin ever discovered, even including meteors?
In plain sight, and we haven't figured it out yet.
And not a single verifiable leak?
Yeah.
Or is it that they're completely useless and nobody should ever be trusted and the government needs to get the fuck out of my life? I'm totally fine with both of those things being true, that there can be portions of it that do both. In my opinion, what is it? Hanlon's razor, do not attribute to malice that which can be explained by stupidity. It's like, do not attribute to conspiracy that which can be explained by people that just really, really, really are good at lying.
Agreed. And, there could be a third option somewhere in between those two where you kind of said it. There's a small, because the government and these organizations are just people, would it be possible to find people that are super capable and competent and operate well inside of an incompetent government? Yes.
Well, that's the C again, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yes, you could. But man, my personal bullshit meter goes off pretty rapidly. And also, and I don't know why, there was something about the way that the individual was talking about it that just was like
the good instinct.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, man. Maybe he's maybe he's talking about things he truly believes. But there was something about it that rung off to me. That's
always something that I find interesting. When there's a missing child and the parents go out and they do the press tour. There was this girl called Madeleine McCann in the UK, very famous child that went missing, I think, in Turkey in sort of the mid-90s. And the number of conspiracies about her parents, that they'd kidnapped her or they'd sold her into slavery or they'd been negligent to her or some other bullshit, which very well may be true. And people were analyzing how they'd done their press conferences. And one of the interesting things I reflected on there is they were saying these people are unreliable actors. Look at it. Nobody would act this way when giving a press conference about their lost daughter. I'm like, oh, sorry, hang on. Where's the fucking handbook of examples of how people are supposed to normally behave when their child is fucking missing? Like, because there's two. They've either killed her, chopped her up, and spread her in the sea, or she's been stolen, right? Like,
I can give you way more options than that. Let's be creative.
How are you? You're the guy. You're the guy that would dispose of the body. So, but my point being, like, how are you supposed to behave? Like, how do you behave? And the same thing goes for this guy. So, in terms of some degrees of freedom, let's say that you do have these, again, do not attribute to malice that which can be explained by stupidity or perhaps
incompetence,
or culpability or believability from this guy. He could be telling the truth. So you've been given this information by these people that have said that this is true. They seem reputable to you. Perhaps they also believe that it is reputable. Perhaps it's second or third hand from them. You don't know where it goes. What's the playbook for how you're typically supposed to be able to give an interview to the press claiming that this is potentially the first alien craft? But the other thing, what was it he said? He said something about there's been non-human he almost read it like a novel. It was like there's been
he said typically
there would be a pilot.
Exactly.
And that's the same in this one. I'm like, hey, is this a fucking thriller novel or something?
Well, also don't forget, both you and I'm used to being around cameras. Like, they don't bother me anymore. I could only imagine, let's again go down the thought process of everything he has is the truth, and he is actually trying to be a whistleblower, and this is the first time he's ever had a camera in front of his face.
Nerves.
You're gonna act a little awkward.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, NASA's got this panel for UAPs, apparently, and they are encouraging commercial pilots to come forward. Did you talk about this? Do you hear about this? So this is pretty interesting. So NASA's got this panel, right? There's these UAPs that are happening. Again, this may be part of the conspiracy to the false flag thing. But what they're doing is, it seems like commercial pilots, because they spend way more time in the skies than all militaries combined by a fucking huge margin, they observe a variety of strange aerial phenomena, but there is a stigma in the commercial aviation community around pilots submitting this.
Yeah, because they're going to think you're crazy.
In February alone, the FAA had 68 reports from commercial pilots. So this is NASA trying to encourage a cultural shift amongst commercial pilots for them to come forward so that they're going to be less reluctant to report it because, again, you're going to be shunned and maybe mocked as a crazy person. In February alone, the FAA had 68 reports of UAPs by commercial pilots.
I think we should embrace it. I mean, if we're not alone and they want to come here, I don't think we're going to stop them. So let's embrace the fact that is possible. And, the commercial pilots, I think for years the stigma has been, oh, you believe in aliens? Tractor beam, huh? Probe? Yeah, I get it.
Gape?
Yeah, totally. So I actually think it's a really good thing. I actually have quite a bit of flying experience, and sometimes you see weird shit up there. Report it. And what you're going to get is probably the vast majority of those things are things that were reported that can be explained, but you might get a small minority of them where you can look into it and we could develop a better understanding of whether or not we are alone or not. Just tell the goddamn truth. If you see something you don't understand that's unrecognizable, make a report on it. And I'd rather lean into it. Make some popcorn, invite them down. Like, why not?
What's happening, people? If you enjoyed that, then press here for the full, unedited episode. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace.